About 200 people crowded into the event tent at the veGaon Forest Preserve, which was established by Women in Green above Gush Etzion Junction half a year ago, on the day that it became known that the 3 abducted youths had been murdered. Avital Sharansky told her story, the story of the struggle to free her husband Natan from the Egypt of modern times, frozen Russia. Avital's story touched the audience. There was not a dry eye in the house. The story was full of optimism and faith in the ways of the Almighty to redeem, and it filled the entire audience with energy and strength to continue the journey.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Yehudit, for inviting me here to this place. I hear from Chaya a lot about this place that used to work here many years. It's the first time I'm here, so I want to say Shechayanu. It's a beautiful place. It's nice to be with you. I would tell a story. I thought what to say, and how to summarize everything. So I will just tell the story. I always say, I do this for 30 years, is tell the story, the same story. Avital, talk close. We passed from Jerusalem to here, and we are passing in our forefathers' land, and we see the grave of Rachel, and our ancestors' graves, and roots, earth, beauty of the sprouting of the flowers and plants. We're in Russia in our generation. When we were young, we didn't know about our roots at all. We didn't know about that we were Jews. I would tell about myself, but we can multiply that to 1 million people or 5 million. It's a very typical story. Somehow, this particular government was able to disconnect 3 generations of Jews from the lineage of their roots. And my grandfather barely, they would say, behind her back they would say, Jew, Jew. But she wouldn't even turn. I didn't even ask her when I was little. My mother was born already in Russia and was totally a product of the government. And suddenly we have a big miracle. And we that didn't know anything, that didn't appreciate, that didn't feel anything Jewish in our house. No Shabbat, no candles. People don't understand this. When I tell young people, they say, but Hanukkah, you didn't have Hanukkah? Matzah? No, we didn't have matzah. We didn't have anything. Until the age of 14, I didn't really know I was Jewish. It was a miracle. It started when my oldest brother got his passport, and I had to write in his passport his nationality. So the lady said, go to your mother and ask her exactly who you are. And I remember that I came from school, and it was a big, my mother was crying, and everything was closed, because in this communist thing, people were afraid to speak. There was, people were snitching about neighbors, and everybody was snitching against each other. It was secret, and everybody was, trying to listen to them and tape them, and the communist, you had to keep everything intact, just to control everything, just by snitching and having everybody. They had to control everybody very tightly. And so suddenly, and my father is sitting all very closed up and very tight and angry, and my mother is crying, and my brother is standing at the age of 16, all stand, and I'm a Jew. And he asked his mom, and his mother said that yes, we covered it up against you. We didn't want you to be Jews. You see what is happening to us here? there's no future for Jews in this nation. Well, she was very right, of course, but there's no future. But your kids, I'm worried for you. I want you to flourish, to get organized, to go to universities. And Jews are not being accepted very much there. And that's why I want to give, we can give like bribery, and we'll give bribery, and maybe they'll write that you're Russians. And my brother, at the age of 16, not understanding much, but with his truth that you have to deal with the parents, said, I am a Jew. And I said, I'm going to be Jew. And I didn't know what it means, really. It was a little drop, the first drop of our... And we forgot about it. And many years passed by, and the family went to Moscow, to the center, to my grandparents, and we were accepted to universities. And we developed and went forward, and we tried to find the truth, who we are, what is going on with us. We looked, we went to all kinds of Krishna, to Christianity. We read a book about Gandhi from India, and we were very excited, and we loved it. We wanted to be with love, and how we can win with love everything, but it wasn't connected to us. In Moscow, you go back from your flat, and you're in very gray reality, very pressured. The sky is like always dripping, and everybody is not happy. And it's closed. There's no music that you like. There's no books that you can read. And nothing. There's just young people that are looking for their essence, like everybody in the world. They're looking for their essence and their perceptions. We didn't know what to ask. We were like babies. We didn't even know what to ask. And we forgot about our cry at 16 and young that we're Jews. And suddenly, in the 70s, young people in Russia were starting to, say very quietly that this, I forgot to say, that in Russia was closed hermetically. You can't get out, you couldn't get in. Writers that would import, out their books out, like Dr. Zhivago, famous author. But he got into jail because his book came out in the West. And people wrote to their shelves and to their drawers. And another thing was samizdat, which is the book would take out books from the West to Russia. People will write it by hand and hide it. And they will pass it from one person to another. And it was called samizdat. Publishing it by yourself or writing it by hand. And if there were people that will get into and they found this book, it was an anti-Soviet, and you would get 7 years and 5 years in Siberia, the punishment. Until people were so thirsty to literature and so wanted to be connected and wanted to know what's happening and breathe air and feel a little bit spiritual from what the authority wanted them to feel. They did that and went to jail, and half of Russia was Siberia, and were in camps out there, and it wasn't nice. And suddenly the Jews, the young Jews, were talking about that there is a situation where Jews in particular are coming out of Russia, that there is a country somewhere in the Middle East, a small country, that they say all kinds of things about it, that is calling to all the Jews to come there. And we, students, intelligent, studying and studying Greek and all kinds of intelligent things, and look at the map and look for this particular little country, and we can't find it. We look at the map and we found it, and we put our finger on it. But the name, it says, it doesn't even, you can't see the name, it's so small. No, come on. We are in Russia. It's half of the world. It's so wide and spread. And we know that in Russia we have at least 5 million Jews. All of them will go to this thing on the map that we can't even put our fingers on. What is this? It's a joke. That's how afterwards, I must say, when I was in Israel, I already learned that there was yeshivas underground of Chabad that were amazing tzaddikim, that big tzaddikim that sat in jail for 30 years because they kept their Jewishness. But in Russia, when you couldn't connect between people and it was the opposites, there was no connection. We didn't know that. So it was, flat, like empty plate. We didn't know anything. My husband knew a little bit about Israel because his family knew more. They knew their Jews. In my family, they hid everything. So we didn't know. I didn't know about the state of Israel. I didn't know about the independence war. I didn't even know of the 6-Day War. I didn't care. I was in this high tower. And that was my spirituality. I ran away from this world to this high tower of learning. The moment we started to put our finger on the map and to read the name of this little country, something happened. It's like the information started to come to us from all kinds of sources. And we suddenly felt like, oh, there's another couple that got a permit to come out. So the Jews are coming out. How is it possible? Somebody from this country is sending an invitation to a Jewish family, and this Jewish family with this invitation goes to the visa department in Moscow or in another city. And there they check and see. And there is some people that are able to get this exit permit. And we see our close friends suddenly come. They had a little baby, and they live in Jerusalem today. But they come to us and say, we're gonna try to exit. We really want to ask questions. We want to think. We're free. We would love to read. We want choice. We'll see what is going to happen if they arrest us. What are we going to do about our baby? We have to get out. We have to have a chance. We're not going to go there. We're going to go there for a year. We'll work. We'll give back the money that they give us. Oh, we'll go to India, to Paris. There is all the intellectual sources of the world. And they ask for a permit out. And they get it. Amazingly. And we're like going to the airport with them, and we're crying, and we're happy on the other hand. And why are we crying? Because then somebody who got out to Israel, nobody was in Israel. Nobody knew what is this country about. Nobody came back to tell us. It was like you come to this like death. Nobody tells you what's going up there. We were crying because we don't know if we will get this new world, the next world. And we're happy for them that they succeeded to make Aliyah. A few months later, after they got over the censorship and wrote us some letters, and we get like a little postcard from them. This is the house. You come only here. We're not going to India or Paris. You come here. So of course we're in the process and we're trying to do this. And my biggest brother, he's asked visa, he gets a denial. In Russia is going against this particular exit. Did you read the book of Orwell, 1984, and you have this? This is Russia. This is the way Russia was. It's a big machine with a lot of buttons that everybody has to work. And what's happening for every machine when one of the screws stops to work, or like parts stop. If you have a small part, nothing works. So the whole machine doesn't work. So that's how Russia, they were afraid that as soon as the Jews will come out, there'll be a revival, a national revival, because they occupied the Caucasian, Ukraine, all these different people, Belarus. all these different people, Uzbeki, Ottoman, all these nations, they're very old nations, and all these people we're going to be revived and are going to be fighting. And so what are we going to do? So they started slowly to try to prevent them from going to Israel. Every Jew that asked for a visa was going through 7 steps of hell. You had to say, I'm a Jew. If you can come to the Red Square and say, I'm Jew, is like to destroy the government. You have to be disciplined. You have to be like enslaved, like a second citizen. All the anti-Semitism made it that we took it in. I mean, as Jews, we're second citizens, and we were supposed to like listen to them. And so a person comes out from his work and says, I'm a Jew and I want to go to my historical country. And automatically everybody says, you're a traitor, you're this, we'll have to hang you, to burn you. We give you everything, free medicine, free education, everything for free, and now you're going to kill this whole concept? Everybody, historically, always whoever supported the terrorists, it was Russians. It was the Russian government, because this is the education. Mubarak and all these Arab leaders were studied this. We used to see them in Moscow, and they studied and got all the equipment and weapons. So a person like that's become persona non grata, somebody who's not welcomed, and they were afraid to be connected to those people. They will go against him. The children will be dropped out of school. He would lose his job. You have no work. Oh, you're a parasite. You're a parasite. We'll put you in jail. And there were people that ended up in jail right away. They gave denials to people, and the idea became denied applicant. A Jew that for his love for 10 more years and more became hell. He couldn't run away and he couldn't do anything. And he sits there and waits. And so what Jews did, they started to study Hebrew. They wanted so much physical to get close to Israel. They wanted, it became from funny about this little country to a passion, a great passion in their hearts to go here and come here. The more they denied them, the more the desire was greater. And suddenly you have all this Zion, you heard about the Leningrad trial in Samizdat. I get this little page with Sylvan Salmonson, one of the famous that took over the airplane to come out. She was in my age and she's yelling here in Hebrew a sentence to the whole Russian Empire. If I forget you, the famous sentence, and she gets 10 years in jail, this young woman. And I said, what am I doing here? If she can, I can. So slowly this movement became like a big ball of snow, and everybody from all the cities were coming to Moscow and meeting with, they were going on hunger strikes, and it was becoming a movement, a whole movement. And as much as it was going stronger, the efforts of the government was becoming more harsher. I met Natan after I came to look for my brother who was arrested after a demonstration. I was looking for him near the new synagogue in Moscow. I mean, the big, huge in Pikov Street in Moscow. And for the first time, I saw the building that was called a synagogue. But the Russian Jews were not allowed to get in there. Just Jews that came from America, from the U.S., or give some dollars, that was a place for them. All the Jews of Moscow would congregate in the street near the synagogue. And I came there to look if anybody heard about my brother that was arrested. After a few talking to people, a short guy came to me, very with like cold sores, and he says, I just sat 15 days in jail. I put your brother in the demonstration, so let's look for him in the jail. So we went together, and I'm asking, what is those people doing? What is this, congregation of people? Be ashamed. You don't know that we're fighting? We're ashamed. I'm like in the painting thing. Where are we fighting? We're in Syria. We're fighting. Arik Sharon is already past the channel. Are you Jew? Are you really? We got to the jail where they held my brother after the demonstration, and for 15 days, and I gave him like small notes in socks I sent him, so he won't be sick like Nathan. And I wrote little notes to him. We are in Syria. We passed the channel, and I didn't know really. It was like Chinese to me. I had no clue what I was saying, but I was Zionist in my heart. I was burnt Zionist, but I was willing to sit in this tank that I heard about. And that's how young people in Moscow felt during the Yom Kippur War. Thank God my brother came out. He didn't get the notes, but he came out and he got a visa. And the same thing, we went to the airport, and many people crying and hugging and very happy and dancing and singing Hebrew songs there. And they started to have discs in the underground, from the underground, with Shlomo Karlibach songs. And then my brother going to Israel and sends us from Israel an invitation like the other people. So we, in the short time, we learned that we really wanted to become a family, and we want to get married with Nata. So, yeah. Kidding? So it was a very turbulent times. A few times there was a president of U.S. that came to Russia. Jews went demonstration to try to talk to them, to speak to them about the situation of the Russian Jews, to ask the Americans to help. And it's already a situation where 5 boys will come out to demonstrate for 1 second. You were in demonstration. You know what is a demonstration. In Moscow, it was different. You come out, 5 boys come out. They come from all kinds of different places in the central place in Moscow. You come out of their, I want a visa to Israel. Let me unite with my, nation. So we wrote really quickly at home. Within a second, they're disappearing. We don't know where they are. And there's all kinds of very severe, kinds of arrests, and they disappear. For 1 second of demonstration, they had 5 years of Siberian, arrest. All of them are here. All of them, thank God, all of them came here. Nobody stayed there, but thank God. But all those people spend a lot of time. And Natan went to demonstration, and he was already the official, non-official, PR person, and I went and we arrested together one time, and they let him go, and they left me for one night. I haven't asked an exit. He was already, I didn't ask for a permit. He was denied an exit. So when I came out in jail and he waited for me on the side, we decided that we must find a solution to the situation. We don't want to separate after we met. We decide we can't get married officially because he's all the time the KGB was after him, and they say you have to marry in the municipality, and they say no, don't let them get married, don't do any process for them. So we found an old man. He's also here today, but he came to Israel, that agrees to marry us in secret and to make a chuppah and to do a kiddushim. And we're in 7th heaven, and we're getting married like all the young people in Israel. We're gonna get it to Israel. we prepare the chuppah, and Natan disappears. So Nixon came to Moscow, and they arrested at night every single people, and they put them outside, a preventive arrest, and they put them outside of the city so they won't mess with Nixon's visit. At the same time, the government wants to show Nixon that there is freedom of exit, and they gave like a long list of Jews from the Jews in Russia about the people that it needs to be, and they want to show that that he's a nice person, that he's going to act towards the Jews. So they invite a group of Jews to the office, the visa office, and they said, in 3 days you're going to the airplane. So they wanted to show Nixon and take pictures of it, that there is freedom of exit, and they invite me too, and they give me a visa. And I can't say to them that I can't get out. We're getting married because this is an underground wedding. Maybe you remember in the 90s when we had a new immigration to Russia. All the hospitals had children, babies, grandfathers. Somebody who was 100 years old that wanted to be. All of them did bris, because in Russia it was not allowed to have a bris. So whatever was called religious was not allowed. There was no bris, there were no bar mitzvahs. So when we did a chuppah, and the police would know, they would get 15 years, including this old guy who did this to Siberia. So Natan was arrested, and we started looking for him, and we understood the situation. And in 3 days, I have to go on an airplane, and I'm thinking, for the first time in my life, I was praying that I won't go without seeing him. And I get back to my flat that we rented in the underground. We continuing to do the wedding, the chuppah, and the day of the chuppah I come back until I did a lot of phone calls. There were no cellular phones. I come back to the flat and I see Natan. And immediately people come from the jail and we do the chuppah. And thank God we had 2 girls, and it was very happy. I was with tens and thousands of chuppah, but I never remember such a chuppah that was so happy, like the chuppah we had in this rented little flat in the underground, with people that were just dirty, that came out of preventive arrests, and it was very happy. And at night we had to discuss what were we going to do, because at 6 o'clock I have to go on the airplane. At the end, we decided. Natan said, you're going to Israel, and we're taking him somehow out from Russia, and we make every effort to take him out. And again, we're crying at the airport, and with hugs, and a few hours later I'm in Israel. I'll tell you in short. We thought it's going to take like 3 months, and then he's going to come back. And we joined me. I was in an Ulpan in Jerusalem, Ulpan Etzion. I'll say that when I came out of the airplane, I almost fell. There was such strong light, such strong light. It was July. It was Tammuz, and the smell of oranges. We came to Tveria because my brother was in the north, and the other couple with the baby was at north. And at the way, in the car of the absorption of, I was looking from side to side, and there was like big forest with oranges and boxes of oranges, and the smell. I was sure I was in the Garden of Eden. When I came out of darkness, so much strong darkness to this beautiful light, strong light. And when we came down to Nazareth, and we're down in sunset, and I see all these beautiful mountains near the Lake of Galilee, just lit with fire, and it was just the Garden of Eden for me. All the splendor, light, beautiful sky, air, fresh. They took me to Jerusalem after a month. My brother took me in an Egged bus from Tiberia to Jerusalem through the valley. And all the way there was this like little barbed wire, and I asked him, "What is this?" "Avital, that's the border to another." I was laughing. You know what a border in Russia? It's a place that you of like concrete and choppers and tanks, and here it's a little barbed wire. So he took me. We also went off the bus and we went to the Kotel in the Western Wall. And there in the Western Wall, I gave myself. I didn't know what is a vow, but I promised myself that if God willing, I have kids in Israel, they will immediately know who they are. And they won't go like strange people. And I was 23. Where was I? Where was I? Why wasn't I born here? I was very envious with all these little kids, the students, all these children that I didn't pass this. Was in school here, and I wasn't here in Israel. But thank God, we got here. I wrote Natan every day, and I wrote to him that when you get out in the evening in Jerusalem, and the fresh air of Jerusalem is like dessert that you can eat in small spoons. Immediately I fell with good people here. Like I met this family. They were students of their Rabbi Cook. I also knew Rabbi Cook. They took me a few lessons of it. I didn't understand anything, but to be in his presence and the air of this tzaddik with his face and his smile, it was so warming. It was warming even the frozen of Siberia, snow. After 3 years, Natan was still not here. The Russian decided to really close entirely the immigration out of Russia. And how do you do that? By the traditional way. You blame a few Jews with spying, and it's death sentence for that. You do it through the main Russian newspaper. It's closed, can't go anywhere, and all the anti-Semitism of this, you can come out and go in the streets and attack the Jews, and it was very dangerous. And to my despair, I saw that they are blaming my husband as the main conspirator from all these people that were denied the visa. And at that night we were at Rabbi Tzvi Cook, and it was the end of Purim. At 2 a.m. he woke up. He immediately understood what's happening, what's the danger to all the Russian Jews, to what is the system is working with anti-Semit people and governments. And he started crying, and our brothers in Russia are in danger. We have to save our Russian Jews. Brothers, it was on Ovadia Street in Geula neighborhood, in his house. Into this house came all his people from all students from everywhere. Rabbis came to his house. Rabbi Tzfania Jory, Rabbi Drukman, all kinds of rabbis from everywhere. What can we do? A young person asked him. What can we do? What can we do? To go to the street and to scream, our brothers in Russia are in danger. We can't happen this generation. We can't afford that. And that way, with the screaming of the rabbi, we all went out. We went to abroad. Everybody did his own thing. There was Yigal Shafran. There was today a rabbi, veGaon Shafran. It was a very young person then. He had an uncle in Switzerland that was the head rabbi of Geneva Jews. And we went to him, and we just went from one place. We had connections, and we went to synagogues, to neighborhoods and Jewish neighborhoods, with this scream of Rabbi Cook that we're in dangerous. In the middle, we found out that Natan was arrested and disappeared. And only after 16 months, they took him out to a trial. And meanwhile, I felt inside that when I came to, I was 23. I went to the army. I wanted to do something in return. I wanted to contribute. So I went to the army. I wanted to become, no, you're too old. Wait for your husband at home. And here I feel, this is the fight. This is the war. I have to be like a soldier. And I started fighting. There was a area in Jerusalem, and Rabbi Benny Eisner, who died a few years ago. It was in his house. He organized everything in his house. We had phones there. Simple people brought money to put for our activities, contributions. And I remember a taxi driver that always would call him and drive us around and do things. He would finish his regular work. Okay, now I'm under your, I would like to contribute to you. So where do you need to go? We used to meet with Golda Meir, Moshe Dayan, with everybody who's who in Israel, and we screamed our brothers in Russia, and slowly but surely, with a lot of very strong work, the Jewish world was waking up and united around us, and our motto was important, like, if we get together, we'll have the redemptions. And I really believe that just when the Jews are united, we get redemption and solution, good solutions. And we saw how this is happening. We came slowly to the Jewish communities, neighborhoods, and they approached their leaders, and to the Congress, to the Senate, to leaders, political leaders, to kings, to representatives. And one time we had a meeting with President Reagan, and I asked the Rabbi Tzvi, who am I that go to meet the president of half of the world? And he says, first, you're human and he is human. And second of all, he's a king. So he's like, you have to go to him because it says in the Torah to honor him, but you have to look in his eyes and say to him, our nations came revived after 2,000 years of being in Galut, and being if there is any values in this world, it's all we contributed. It's our values, it's our tradition, it's our heritage. We're reviving now and coming back to our home, to Eretz Israel, to Israel. And there is some evil people that are trying to stop us and break our revival. I'm asking from you, you have honor to help us to this holy nation and to this big nation. And this is how I said, I talked to Reagan, word to word is what I said to him. And Rabbi Tzvi says, look at these eyes and see. I saw a little bit of a tear. I know he did. There were some who didn't, but I felt like every single leader was feeling something inside. When you say straight, no self-confidence, no economy, not about all this kind of excuses, but all kinds of tactical explanation. When you say straight the words, we're a big nation that revived, that came back to Eretz Israel after 2,000 years. We didn't come back just for nothing. We want to give back to the world. We have a lot to give to this world, value-wise, traditions. I spoke once with Mitterrand, that was the president of France. And when Natan was released and did the whole tour world to thank to leaders and to Jewish communities about what they did for him, he sat with Mitterrand and he told him, he says, in the same chair your wife sat, and he spoke, and I didn't believe her. I didn't believe that I'll see you alive here in front of me. But she was right. Everyone did something little. I want to tell you another small story. There was an activity, and Natan was 110 years, 100 days in hunger strike. And after when I saw him, he felt like the whole nation was with him. And he says, I felt like a soldier. I felt like everybody is with me. The Jewish nation is with me in jail, in this small confinement. And what did you do? I sang from joy. Don't ever ask Natan to sing, it's dangerous. But he says, when the people that were keeping eye on me, I was singing in Hebrew and they were suffering. And Geshotzah Me'od, there's a very narrow bridge. All the songs of Karlebach, they were suffering. They didn't know what I was saying. And maybe I was calling for revolt. They didn't know Hebrew. And they were suffering from my voice, I'm pretty sure. And when Shabbat he's going to sing, oy vey. It's quite a dangerous thing to do. So he really felt also the nation. And, another incident, we had a very intensive activity. And another word, a babysitter. And I was in Washington and I was meeting kilometers of people in Senate and walking and going, and I was very tired of human pollution. Have a good day, and I was very tired of all this prim and proper things. And we get a notice that Natan, his eyes he's being suffer and he can have problems because of his hunger strike. And I think Margaret Thatcher, who's was the head of president of the Prime Minister of Britain, she might be able to do something. And we had the court Jews in the United States and in Britain that were very close to the main government and helped us a lot. So we called David Wolfson, that was the secretary of Margaret Thatcher, and I called from Washington to London, and I was very confused in that week. 3 times I went back and forth on airplanes and I was really tired. And suddenly, Mr. Wolfson, tomorrow I'm coming to Britain. I want to meet that day Mrs. Thatcher. And I hear this quiet, in British quietness. Mrs. Sharansky, do you know? What's the time now? And I'm looking at my clock. Oi, the difference of hours, and I'm so sorry. But I really need to go there. But I'm arriving at the airport. I would like to meet Mrs. Thatcher. Who do you think you are? He says to me. What do you think yourself to? You think that you and your husband, the main, center of the world, everybody is standing in line to meet Mrs. Thatcher, and I says, I'm very, very timid and quiet, and suddenly I feel like under the ground there from this yelling, and I say to him, look, I don't know what to say and apologize, and suddenly somebody's pushing me from the inside, and it says, Mr. Wolfson, you know who you are? Do you know that, yes, I think me and my husband are the center of the world? Do you know that we are a nation that revived? And do you know, and we are on the way to our home, to Israel, and this is the most optimistic process, and everybody who has eyes in his eyes should help and push and try hard. And you, as a Jew, you got to this position because of that. He closed the phone on me, and I take an airplane and I go, and he's waiting near the tarmac and says, I apologize, we're going to go to Thatcher. And that day she gives a hard time to the Russian, and she don't think I'm such a fresh person, but with chutzpah, but I felt like I'm fighting the fight of everybody, the whole entire nation, and there's no point for personal timidness. It's a fight of everybody, and I have to be. I'm constricted in this army, and I'm fighting for the honor of Israel, and that's what gave a lot of strength. You know that when I knew I didn't know anything about Judaism, I was like a white page, empty. This woman I met, this couple, Hannah, I came to them with all my questions, and I asked her once, how do you know that what are we gonna do something that is bad, and Hashem will send us back to 2,000 years of exile. And Hannah says after going in the books, I don't want you to go through all the books. I'm not such a smart person to really give you this information. But she's explained to me all this explanation, and she gets to the fruits of Israel. And she says, when Eretz Israel gives fruits to the people that come back from the exile, from the freeze, it's a sign that it's not going to be ever exile. What did you think I did? I came back. I went to the market in Machane Yehuda, and with the little money I had, I bought all oranges in my rented, and I put the oranges everywhere in my apartment, so I can open my eyes and I can see that we're not going back to exile. It was like a sign. And I asked her a few other things, and she said, why am I here? You know, I went to everywhere in Jerusalem. I inhaled all the fresh air. And from the tzaddikious rabbinical ladies, I read. I didn't even know about the Holocaust. That there were big tzaddikim people that every year said next year in Jerusalem, next year in Jerusalem, and never made it. That sang songs like the songs, you know, Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, you know, all this full of heart. My heart is in the east, full of you know, wanting to come to Israel and never made it. And here, who am I? I'm a white page from Jews, and I'm here, and people in the Ulpan is coming from all over the world. And I asked her why we merited and they didn't. Explain it. And again, she looks in the books, and Hannah is looking, and it was engraved in Deuteronomy chapter 30 in Yechezkel. You have a whole plan, exact plan of the redemption of Israel. It's like little steps, from one step to the other. Read it for yourself. How Hashem takes us to the last step, and He can bring everybody from all spread, and He puts pure water. I didn't understand what is pure water. I felt good after all the of dirty water of the exile. I used to going to water everywhere, the mikvahs everywhere, to just come to Israel, to feel it, to be here. And after that, He makes us into a nation. He treats us like we are His sons. And slowly but slowly, our redemption is happening. And the bottom of redemption is the ingathering of all the exiles. And you really see, I'm in the plan of God. Yeah, you are in the plan. My husband is in the plan. Yes, he is also in the plan. So he'll come. Of course he'll come. The American Jews are in the plan, because there were many Americans in the old plan. Yes, everybody. And the plan, the godly plan, is not a human plan. It's not by the president or the prime minister. This plan doesn't matter. We're all in this plan, this godly plan. We're all on the way to redemption. We're all there. We're all mentioned. We're all part of it. And I'll ask who's newcomers and who's the son of a newcomer. They're all here. We're all part, very small part, but still part of this godly plan. And that makes me very happy. It gives us founding under our grounding. Gives me a lot of strength to go with Hashem, with His plan. We don't always have strength for that. Sometimes we do stupid things. But believe me, if I have a merit to ask you for this, yes, we are in this plan, and we're not going back to exile. And I saw this in my eyes. I felt it. I lived it. I experienced it. Not only me. After Natan was out and everybody came, until people come to me, grandparents, on my shoulders, Natan made it to the Western Wall. We have very, very wide shoulders, because so many people said that. After 3 years, he got to act. We had this renewed energy, and he had a lot of energy with this strength. After 3 years, boom, we crashed. All the Iron Curtain falls, the Russian government goes down, the Jews of Russia coming out. Within 10 years, we have millions of people here that came on immigration. And Hashem, you know, hand is still working, and we could see it. And God willing, we'll see all the miracles, God willing, with happening to us. Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Thank you to Avital for amazing redemption work.